guys remember Morgan Harper? She ran as a Just Democrat in Ohio for the House. She worked the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. She had a bit of an education, Tufts, Princeton, Stanford, not a big deal. She organized and founded Columbus Stand Up. That's a grassroots community organization that mobilizes volunteers. She does good work. She's a wonderful person. You know what she decided to do? She's running for Senate, okay? So, you know what else she's doing? Joining us, Morgan Harper, everybody. How you doing, Morgan?
Hey, good, how are you?
I'm good, I'm good. Craig, our stage manager here, remembered you because as we're about to do the interview, he said, is it time to Morganize?
It's absolutely time to Morganize, so yes. Craig, we need you.
Yes. So Morgan, lots of questions here. I'm in a weird mood here, so I'm going to start with a fun question. You're running for the Ohio Senate seat. We're going to get to the Democratic primary, but first, in the Republican primary, since Rob Portman's retiring, we have two, in my opinion, nut jobs: JD Vance and Josh Mandel. So, who is crazier, Vance or Mandel?
That's a tough question to answer, and you have touched on the main point of why I'm running, though, because the threat on the right is pretty extreme at this point, and we as Democrats haven't been doing a great job of winning in the state of Ohio, and we need to do that because both of them represent, I would say, existential threats to our democracy, and they are nothing to advance our government closer to delivering real change for our communities.
No, Morgan, that's what I'm worried about. I'm worried that they're gonna win and we're gonna have like a full-blown lunatic in the Senate. I mean, we already have a bunch, but Vance or Mandel would not help the cause. And they're both, of course, have a competition to who could lick Trump's boots better and more effectively and efficiently. To help me understand what's happening in Ohio. So Ohio used to be a swing state, but in the last couple of elections, it's pretty much stopped swinging. And it's gone more significantly in the Republican column. So why? Why did it do that?
Well, I would say that it is still a swing state, but we need to be taking the data and the results that we're seeing and applying it to develop our strategies to move forward to win. And one of the things that we're seeing is that the career politician types in the state of Ohio, especially for these federal seats as Democrats, are not winning. And if you can't mobilize a lot of key constituencies across the state, Black voters, other communities of color, working class voters, you are not going to have the numbers to pull off a victory here. And like we were just talking about, the stakes are very high. We need to flip this seat and protect the Democratic majority in the US Senate. And and that's what we're also saying through our campaign, and a message we're gonna be mobilizing throughout the state is we're not gonna be able to turn out these people who are inconsistent voters, who have floated away from the party entirely, by presenting someone who is in bed with corporate interests, who's taking corporate money. The Republicans actually in this race are saying no corporate PAC money. They're gonna stand up to big tech. They're gonna take on big corporations, fight for the little guy. It's nonsense, and we need to have an alternative that actually, I was talking about myself here, that has a track record of doing that, having worked at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, actually trying to take on big tech to have government implement legislation and do something. The only way we have a chance to counter this message and the threat on the right in the state of Ohio and win is by having a true progressive and a mobilization strategy, grassroots across the state to turn out the people that we need to vote.
Okay, so let's keep it real. Tim Ryan is in the primary with you, and he was in the race earlier, and so he's more of an established and establishment Democrat, and so his argument's going to be, well, okay, yeah, I took corporate money, but I raised a lot of money. I raised $2 million, and that money's going to help me win. And then I'm going to go and say his main thing is Ohio workers and etc. So why is that not a winning strategy?
We win by getting people to vote for us. That's a pretty key point, right? We don't win by raising a lot of money. I think if last cycle showed us anything, especially in a lot of these Senate races, is that raising a ton of money is not guaranteeing success in order for Democrats to win statewide in some of the states. And also, what we saw here in Ohio, President Biden, though he won overall, did worse than Hillary Clinton in the state of Ohio. And so we need to be real and again, look at the facts. The facts are that running the same playbook in the state of Ohio, moderate politicians, centrist politicians that are taking corporate money are not winning. And who has been able to win in this state over the past 15 years? It's people like Sherrod Brown. This is not someone who is trying to hide the fact that he's progressive or gonna stand up to corporate interests, right? And so that is our playbook for winning, in addition to mobilizing the people we need to turn out across the state. And that's not something that can be done in a shortcut sort of way. It's door by door, it's block by block, it's building the infrastructure, it's building the authentic relationships that will inspire people to turn out and win, make young people want to care about this race. We have a lot of colleges and universities here. That's a big part. And then also Black voters. I'm gonna really hit that over the head, because we need to recognize that our community is the core of our base. And if we're not paying attention and if we're not voting, we will not win. That should not be an afterthought. That has to be front and center in any Democratic campaign in this state that is trying to win. And so that's something that we're gonna be very focused on, in addition to a lot of other constituencies that will be mobilizing to turn out. And we have to do it. And there's no other option at this point. We need to recognize that being progressive, being bold, sticking to our values, having someone who's willing to stand up to powerful interests is the way that we're gonna get a message that will turn people out in November.
So the point about Sherrod Brown is excellent. It's almost like you went to Stanford Law School. Because Ohio's continuing to lean red in national elections, as you pointed out, Biden did even worse than Hillary Clinton. But yet you have one of the most progressive senators in the country, and I would argue maybe the most pro-union, pro-labor senators. So there's a dichotomy there. It's almost as if it's not about Democrats or Republicans. It's populist versus establishment candidates. So now, Tim Ryan, I've known for a long time, and he's got his ups, he's got his downs, but clearly he's not a populist. He's against Medicare for all. He made that clear in the campaign trail. In fact, in an interview with me, and against Green New Deal, et cetera. So, how would you run a populist campaign, Morgan?
Well, it's the same issues that I've been talking about since I ran in the congressional race too. In many ways, things have only gotten more precarious for a lot of people. So I'm sticking to what I've always stood for, that we need to have universal access to healthcare. This is a must, that we need to be addressing the climate crisis. We're seeing here, even in the Midwest, where I think folks like to believe that somehow we were gonna be immune from the effects of climate change, increasing flooding, housing costs related to these weather changes and extreme weather events. And so we need to just be real with people about what's going on and the policies that will actually solve the problems. And that is what we are going to communicate to voters across the state, workers, small business owners, people who understand the economic system has been rigged against us being those who have to continue to work, to live, and that we need real change for our communities, and it needs to happen now.
Yeah, I see in your platform, and you have one. Most establishment candidates don't have one. Most progressives do, because you care about policy. And so you have one, of course, and you mentioned universal health care, universal child care, and universal education. But Morgan, if we do all that, how are we gonna pay for all the wars?
Well, this has been a very heavy week in many ways, or really last couple of weeks. And I think we're seeing that the foreign policy establishment has led us into a path over the last 20 years, my entire adult lifetime, of wasted money, resources, lives built on strategy that did not make any sense from the beginning. And so, that's one important thing that we need to move away from and start to prioritize, really focusing on our communities and supporting each other and getting the resources that people are going to need to lead stable lives. That's a big part of what, the platform that we're talking about. I think that's what people across the state want to hear, that we're going to be focused on policies that are about serving our communities and delivering change that is long overdue.
And so I saw on your website, speaking of which, what is your website?
MorganHarper.org.
Okay, MorganHarper.org. Remember, folks who are not running with corporate PAC money need real people to help, both donating and organizing, and that's what the volunteers are for. That's so catchy. I love it so much. Okay, but I saw on your website that in Ohio, you had more high-paying jobs per capita than any other state, and that's clearly not the case anymore. And that, I think, is the heart of the discontent. So what happened there, and how can you fix it?
I mean, I think what we're seeing right now is the end result of a generation of policy, economic policy at the federal level that has benefited large corporations and allowed a select few to really get ahead, and to the detriment of workers, small business owners. I mean, even at this point, medium-sized business owners are probably finding it very difficult to compete. And I've heard this through some of the antitrust work that I've done. And so we need to be real about what got us here. It, again, is a failed philosophy, a philosophy that's rooted on this idea that, if prices are low and people are getting credit, everything's fine, and really get back to what has made our economy work for most people historically. And that is a strong understanding of the need for workers and small businesses to be front and center, right? Not just allowing large corporations to pretty much do what they want. And that's the era that we've been living in. But there's momentum now, which is a good sign, to change that. Again, that's some of the work that I've been focused on over the last year and a half through some of the anti-monopoly policy and competition policy. And there are good signs coming out of the Biden administration on that front. But that's the beginning of what's necessary to really make it so that we are not always kind of scraping by economically, scared about the ability to pay for prescription drug costs. We need to be tackling this corporate power issue head on so that we are able to all lead more safe and less vulnerable lives.
And everybody remember, Morgan didn't talk the talk, she walked the walk. She actually fought corporate rule. And so nobody else in the race has done that. All right, morganharper.org. Everybody go check it out. Morgan, thank you so much for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Cenk.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.